My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. All right, welcome back, everybody. Eli here, and today on Meet Cool People, I have a very cool honor having a. We started as a client, then we become very good friends. Dan Smink, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He is a digital marketer with Refract ROI. He has over 16 years experience running his own agencies. He specializes in helping manufacturers create a solid and reliable lead flow in order to free up their sales teams to do what they do best, which is like closing the sales, which is kind of the important part. And he loves to look at marketing through an economic lens to help people make better decisions about their marketing investments. So Dan, thanks so much for hanging out today.
Eli, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. As we're sitting here playing with all the techie stuff before we get started on the show, which is always a lot of fun. So I already did kind of a bit of a bio thing about you, but how did you get riled into the digital marketing space?
So I had started an agency with two friends of mine, and it was a strategic marketing / advertising agency. The two friends had been they had been two of the one was the president and the other was one of her chief account people. Mm-hmm. At the time the largest independent agency in Denver, or Denver-based agency, and they had done Harley Davidson, they had done Johns Manville, which is a big Warren Buffett company here in Denver. They'd done some big telecom companies, and so they were big in advertising. I came from a product management background, and so we had a lot of fun. We pitched Fortune 1000 companies, some cool startups. We worked with the NBA, just doing all kinds of interesting marketing. And so that was my first step into the agency world. After about 18 months, though, I was realizing that it wasn't going to scale. And advertising's hard work, frankly. And I remember waking up on my friend's couch one morning because we had been up pretty much all night doing a pitch, and her kids were my children's classmates, mm-hmm. and they came down to breakfast, and I was sleeping on the couch in the family room, because we had been up all night writing this pitch. Right. And I was like, this is just not going to work. I cannot live my life like this. And so I had, it was fun, and those guys are still great friends of mine. I said, hey, there's this whole other space called digital marketing that, is starting to come down to like small, medium-sized customers. And I kept seeing this data point that said 50% of small businesses don't have a website. And I was like, okay, like this is at a time when, people were starting to not use the yellow pages anymore. Mm-hmm. And they were starting to use their laptop or their desktop to buy stuff, to search for things. And I realized like there was this shift going on, and a digital business is a subscription business. What we were doing was a project business. Right. And a subscription business is much easier to scale than a project-based business. And so I said, hey, why don't we go, we can take our expertise over here, but really move into this new area. And it's a much more scalable, it'll be a much better quality of life too, mm-hmm. down the road as we grow the business. And my two friends were like, no, we like doing the advertising stuff. And I was like, not for me. So I sold my interest in that business, and I started the agency that I have today. Just flipped that investment into this business, and I've had it for 14 years. Nice. So yeah.
Very cool. I think one of the things I think that so many businesses need to think about, especially in today's world, is switching your mindset from that product-based to subscription-based. And we see that in everything else that we're doing. We see that in, of everything from movies and streaming services to our phones, all that kind of stuff. It's already around us. It's been there. We've been trained for years now, decades even, to think about that subscription side of things. But I think a lot of small businesses are still thinking in that one-off mindset and not thinking on that next level of switching it to a more subscription concept.
Yeah, totally. I honestly feel like, well, one, so many businesses want to go that direction. They're always looking for, how can I turn this into an app? How can I turn this into a service?
Right.
An example would be music. You and I, when we were younger, we bought albums.
Yep.
Right. Then we bought CDs. So that's a purchase it's a one-time purchase. Right.
Yep.
Now, when was the last time you bought a CD or an album? Unless you are one of those people that has a turntable and you still buy albums.
Now, I'm the oddball.
Still better on an album than on Spotify, hands down. But
I'm the oddball because I will still buy CDs if somebody happens to be selling them. But the first thing I do is convert them into an MP3. But that's I totally get that.
My
people are going into that with the
took that one-time purchase, and Spotify turned it into a service.
Yep.
And you now spend the equivalent of, you basically buy one new CD a month, and your family gets to listen to a limitless library of music. I would argue you could take anything. I think our children or our children's children are going to have cars are going to be a service. Mm-hmm. And you're gonna buy a car service, and you'll get the car you need on a regular basis. And like, let's say that you're it's during the week and you need to do your daily drive to work, and you just need a sedan that's going to get you there. Okay, well, you're going to order up a Honda Accord, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to get that, and it's going to drive you there, right? And you're going to pay whatever the service fee is for that. But then in the weekend, like, we live in Colorado, in spite of the picture behind me, couldn't find the Denver background. Only found the Manhattan background. But anyway, you're going to go to the mountains and it's snowing. All right, well, I'm going to order up the SUV, right? Like, during the week, I listen to, I don't know, some sort of like music that makes me happy. And then on the weekends, and I'm like trying to get amped up because I'm going to go work, and I'm like listening to AC/DC or something like that. Right. I don't know. But like, it's the same. I think it's going to be the same thing. And businesses and investors have been pushing people to try and find a subscription model for everything. Which is why I feel like you see it, and it's also and it has a lot of benefits, and that's why, and one of the reasons we were looking for this one, because when you have a stream of income that has a specific product margin, and you're adding new customers every month, and so that revenue is rising and that gross profit is rising on a monthly basis, you can do a time value of money calculation and say, well, this business is worth X, right? Because we know how many customers we have today. We know what our profit margin is. We know what rate we're acquiring new customers. So we know what's going to grow at. Okay. If you're doing one-time buys, you got to get new customers all the time. And if you don't have the right systems in place, it's much harder. And it becomes a business that's much harder to understand from a financial perspective and from a valuation perspective. So it makes it a lot easier if you have a subscription-based business.
Well, definitely. And you're not starting from zero every month. That's really when you're product based, you're starting at zero every month, where subscription, you can look and say, okay, here's where my numbers are. And, you have some drop off that happens depending on the business, but you at least know you're not starting from zero every single month, which I think is a great way to stop and think about it. And it's so fun because when you actually think of your business differently, I love how we can do that, where it's like, there are places where you have like a pizza of the month club, or, I have Yeah.
Right?
Well, and that's like, there's a guest that we had on here. She's a lifetime friend of mine. I've known her since like first grade or something. Debbie, I did an episode with her, and she does dog treats. Well, one of the first things that I worked with her on years ago was, you've got to put this into a subscription. Right. And now she's got subscriptions all over the country for people that are basically buying her dog treats every month, and she just ships them a box and auto charges them. She doesn't have to think about it.
You probably get that on Amazon, where like you go on Amazon and you buy like conditioner for, or shampoo or something like that. And they're like, want to buy it every month?
Yep.
And they try and get you on a subscription.
Yeah. And they give you a discount for the subscription too.
Right. Because you're
Awesome.
worth a lot more to them
Yep.
at a lower price on a monthly basis, but they've locked you into sort of long-term residual buying
Yeah.
than if you just buy the one expensive one and they don't know when the next one's coming.
Exactly.
So
No, I love
yeah.
it. I love it. And I love the way that you've done that. Now you specialize in working with manufacturing companies. And I've had the pleasure of getting to know a lot about that since I've been working with you. We've been working for several months now and having a blast getting to know each other. And one of the things that I want to ask you, what was the journey that got you to choose that niche? What was it that got you to think these are my people?
These are my people. I was one of those people for like a dozen years.
Okay.
So my business career started in medical device manufacturing. I was a product manager, category manager, market strategist. I worked on the product management, product development, product marketing side of the business. And when you are in that role, as one of my business unit presidents said to me, and there was another product manager who I handled one half of the products and she handled the other half. And he looked at us and he said, look, there's 3 general managers in this business. There's me and there's you two. And the only difference is that everybody here works for me and everybody here answers to me. For you guys, everybody here works for you, but only like 4 people answer to you, which means you have to convince everybody else to follow you. And he said, little secret. And sorry, I should back up. This guy graduated #1 from West Point, was in the Army in the Gulf War. He was one of the guys that they were driving the dune buggies over the berms under the dark of night to like launch the, what was it, Operation Enduring Freedom or whatever it was when we took back Kuwait.
Right.
Helped them take back Kuwait. He was one of those guys, like badass. And he said, little known secret, that's how great leaders lead. They don't lead by direction. They lead by influence. They convince people to follow them. Right. He grabs them by their hearts and minds and they bring their team along. You need to learn how to lead that way. So that's what I did for, so I had to work with the whole company. I had to understand the entire business from operations, finance, customer service, sales, R&D, everybody. And it was a tremendous learning experience from the standpoint of understanding a business. And I mean, I literally have done everything from, like literally worked the 3rd shift on the weekends when we had so much demand that we needed to staff another shift for our production line. And we didn't have enough bodies. And so I was literally like feeding the machines, raw materials, and we were producing, at the time we were producing rapid diagnostic tests. But yeah, that was my job. And so I learned a lot about manufacturing doing it in those different roles for those companies for 12 years. So I had a warm spot in my heart for manufacturing. 2, our company has always had about 1/3 of our business has been in manufacturing. We've had a lot of success doing it. And then the last reason was really twofold. 1, it's a highly uncompetitive space. So in digital marketing, we can tell how competitive an industry is or a vertical is based on the paid search part of the market. So what are people willing to pay for an ad in Google Ads? In a very sophisticated space, we look for what we call buying terms, which are terms that people use to purchase something online. So when they type in like best plumber near me, that's what we would call a buying term, because the person that's looking for the best plumber near them is going to hire a plumber, right? Otherwise they're not typing that term in. They're not typing that term in for giggles, right?
Right.
Or they're not like researching, they're buying. Whereas a research term would be like, how do I find a plumber? Right there, you're looking for information. You're going to try to answer a question, but you're not buying yet. You will buy, but you're not buying yet. And that's what we call a research term. A buying term in a sophisticated market is going to be much more expensive. It's going to cost a lot more than a research term, which is going to cost a lot less. Okay, because the companies in that space, they're sophisticated from a marketing standpoint. They figure out what they're willing to pay for a lead. And so if they know, let's just say that, a click costs $10, and 4% of those clicks are going to turn into a lead. So that means that a lead is going to cost $250 because you would multiply the 10 by 25 because 4% is 20. You would multiply by 25. So the lead is $250. Okay. And they know that the buying term isn't going to convert into a lead. So they're not going to pay for that. Right. So they don't bid it up. In an unsophisticated market, the buying term and the research term don't really have that big of a difference between them.
Right.
Okay. In the prior example, they might have cost $10 for the buying term and $1 for the research term. In an unsophisticated market, it's going to be like $2 or $3 for the buying term, $2 or $3 for the research term, because nobody has figured out that they can actually make money this way, and so they haven't calculated what they're willing to pay for the lead. They haven't done the backward math then to figure out, well, what would I pay for a click from Google Ads? Okay, so manufacturing is like that. They don't know. They haven't done the math in B2B manufacturing. They haven't done the math to figure out what am I willing to pay for a lead. And so our ability to make a huge difference for our customers is enormous, because we can acquire customers really, really inexpensively for them. They can make tremendous profit off of them, and they get a jump start on their competition because their competition isn't paying any attention.
Right.
And they're going to be caught completely napping, right? Suddenly this other company's blowing up, and they're like, why is it that company is like, they're expanding their factory and they're like buying new property and they're moving to a new office, and, then they find out like, oh my God, they've tripled in revenue. Wonder why that happened. Oh my God, they have a digital marketing campaign and it's kicking butt, right? And like, how do I get one of those? Oh, it's going to take an investment and it's going to take some time, right?
Right.
So you have a head. So that team's going to have a head. The first guy is going to have a head start on the second guy. So that is another reason why we've done manufacturing. The other reason is really personal, which is that I started this business to help small, medium-sized companies. And the reason that I focus on them is because small, medium-sized business is the engine of the U.S. economy. Job creation happens in small business and medium-sized businesses. It doesn't happen in Fortune 1000 companies. Job loss tends to happen actually in Fortune 1000. Larger companies tends to be net job loss over time.
Right.
Certainly not significant amounts of growth. When the economy is growing, it's because small, medium-sized companies are expanding and they're hiring people. And so if you can help small, medium-sized companies, you can help the United States economy. And the thing is that I'd rather help a business like a manufacturing firm, because when you create a manufacturing job in a town, right? Greeley, Colorado, let's say, which is a smaller town here in Colorado, but it is growing, right? And there's a lot of manufacturing up there. You create jobs for other people. You create a job for hairstylists. You create a job for, pizza shops. You create, for restaurants. You create a job for automobile dealerships, right? You don't have people coming in and like starting hair salons and car dealerships, and then manufacturing shows up later.
Right.
It happens the other way.
Yeah.
So when you create a job, a manufacturing job, you create like 2 or 3 other jobs. And so if I'm helping businesses grow and create jobs for manufacturing, I'm actually helping communities grow, which is personally a very rewarding thing to do.
Yeah. So. I love it. And you touched on a lot of different stuff right there. One of them was, first and foremost, anybody listening to this, you really need to go back and pay attention with some notes, because you just got a masterclass in how advertising works and actually how to win the game. Because Dan, everything you just said, when you explained that side of it, the difference of, buying terms versus searching terms or research terms, that's like a basic thing that a lot of people don't really know or understand. And
True.
Whether you're actually getting into the advertising space or not, those numbers are important. Those are the things that you're going to be able to see. Is this a competitive market or not? Just by finding out, okay, what's it cost to play in the game here? And what do these differences look like? Also, from a copywriter standpoint, I'm looking at the fact that those terms are the terms that people are using. Therefore, those are the terms that are going to work better in your language, in your messaging, in your copy. So Yeah. So it's
You
like,
need to understand those in order to
Mhm.
do digital marketing. You really
Exactly.
need to understand it to do marketing, but considering that 85% of marketing today is digital,
Hmm.
you know, you need to understand those terms.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it's once you figure those out, like ones that really drive the business, um, it enables you to focus your investment so
Hmm.
efficiently.
Yeah.
Um, but we cannot make that move forward with the client until we figure those terms out.
Right. No, I love that. And I love the way you explain that, because I think a lot of people just don't understand it. And a lot of them, especially smaller, like really smaller businesses, they're
Mm-hmm.
not playing in the advertising game. And if they are, it's very, very stepping their toes in. Right. So it doesn't matter where they are with it. I mean, there's a lot of them that are, but there's a lot that still aren't yet too. They're not
Yeah.
playing there yet. And
The,
even like I said, knowing those basics really opens up a lot of doors.
yeah. I would say that the beauty of digital, one of the beauties, there's many, is it levels the playing field for the small business.
Yeah.
Um, as an example, one of our manufacturing firms in days gone by, and in the past, um, it was a aluminum fencing manufacturer and small company, a couple $1 million or less when we started with them. They were about 5 or 6 when we grew them to the point that we grew them to. But we got them to outrank Lowe's, Amazon, and Home Depot for just for aluminum fencing related terms.
Right.
But they literally were outranking Amazon
Nice.
and Lowe's and Home Depot. And that to me shows you what digital marketing can. A small business, if they focus, they have a good strategy, and they execute, can beat big box stores. But you have to be smart, you have to be intentional, but you could not have done that prior to digital marketing.
Right.
You could not have competed with big box stores, but you can now.
Yeah.
You just
No.
got to be smart.
Yeah. No, and I love that. And I love the fact, I mean, you bring up a really important point, and this is one of the things that's great about the internet marketing space when it comes to digital marketing in any aspect, is that it really did level that playing field. People, I remember the days when everything was in print.
Yep.
And it's like, you want to do something cool, it's gonna you're at low end, you're probably putting a couple $1,000s for a mailer. Oh, and if there was a typo on it, you're screwed. Where there happens to be a mistake on a website, you
Right.
just go, you can go change that in about 5 seconds, no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So it
No,
really
I
has. It's for me, it's always funny because I stop and look at everybody today that are starting businesses. I'm like, oh, you don't even understand just how easy you have it today compared to when we all started this stuff. Yeah.
well, I will say that I also wonder what it was like to do business before there were spreadsheets. I never did business without a spreadsheet. So like I'm always like
Mhm.
that must have been crazy. But uh but I will say that yeah, the difference between when I started doing digital marketing, when I started doing marketing, when I was working for the
Mhm.
medical device companies versus
Right.
now, life is so different. And it's funny because when I started, it was only like CPG, consumer product companies, consumer
Mhm.
packaged goods, that had a lot of data. Most business to business industries, even big ones like medical device, didn't have
Right.
a lot of market data. Um, Now, with digital marketing, you have so much data. You have almost too much data.
Yep.
But it's crazy what we can acquire and understand about customers at very low levels of investment. I mean, you have to do the right amount of investment, but you can literally do stuff with like a $10 million company that you would have never been able to do with $100 million company 20 years ago,
Right.
right? And it also makes the marketer's job a lot easier because when I started, I would, I'd be pitching a product launch that I was proposing or a campaign that I wanted to run for one of my products to the senior management team at the
Mhm.
business that I worked for. So, I'm sitting there in a room and I've got head of ops and head of finance and head of HR, my boss, the marketing guy, the salesperson, the head of sales, and the CEO. I'm sitting in front of these 7 or 8 people, and some of them were my allies and some of them were not.
Right.
And And the way that they would destroy my presentation if they didn't want it to succeed was they would pick apart the assumptions in it. And so the way that I would do any sort of presentation in a setting like that was I would actually pre-sell the whole presentation to each one of those people in the room, understand what their objections might be,
right?
Make sure they understood the assumptions, make sure they didn't have any questions with the assumptions, make sure they accepted my assumptions that then built my proposal was built on.
Right.
Now I just give them the data and I say, we spent this much, the customers generated this much revenue, the return on investment was this. Questions.
Right.
Like,
it's like it pretty much just speaks for itself.
Apart.
Right.
Pardon?
It pretty much just speaks for itself at that point.
Right. You can stand on your own 2 feet, which is a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And it also, you just feel more confident about what you're doing. And digital can create some crazy results. I mean, like stupid returns that are just stuff you wouldn't be able to see in the past, just because you couldn't tell, you had no idea what was going on. So there's that. The other beauty that I love about it is there's Henry Ford is famous for many quotes, but 2 marketing quotes. One is if you stopping spending on advertising in order to help you grow is like turning off your watch and trying to tell time. Mm-hmm. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
Right. The second one is, and that one still holds true. The second one doesn't hold true anymore. And that is half of my marketing budget is working and half of it isn't. I just don't know which half is which.
Right. You got to figure out which.
Yeah. Today, that's not true. You know what's working and what's not from a digital perspective. Like some of your traditional, like your paid advertising or something like that. You don't necessarily know. Your print. If you're doing print advertising still, you're doing PR. You might not know what your return on investment is looking like with that. But with digital, 100%.
Yeah.
You know what your return is looking like, and you can
know
make
where
decisions
that lead came
about.
From.
Pardon?
You know where that lead came from.
You know where the lead came from. I mean, so it's still going to be, like if you've got a multi-layered campaign where you've got, programmatic advertising driving awareness, you've got social media driving preference, you've got, remarketing that's driving increased decision making, you've got SEO and SEM that are driving conversions down at the bottom of the funnel. Like you have to tease it out,
right? But
in the big picture, you can tell if your advertising is working or not, and you can A/B test it to see, like, okay, well, we tried it this way and the return was like this. We tried it this way and the return was, this much better. We're going to go with scenario B.
Right.
Right. Kind of like the stuff that we do. We look at the A/B testing of landing pages and we're like, okay, well, we're going to change the landing page. Right. But yeah, that is one of the benefits of modern marketing that didn't exist before. So
I love it. Very cool. And it is, that is the fun part about it, is being able to figure out, we have so much ability to not only get the data to know what's working and what's not, but also to shift gears quickly if we want to, which is great, because in the past you never could actually do that. So as we're starting to wrap up here, I got, anything, like if somebody's just starting, because I know your specialty is more paid ads and a lot of it is more like paid search kind of stuff. What if somebody's just looking at, maybe I should look into this a little bit more, but they're still fairly new starting out? What are some of the things where's that like a starting point for them to get started with
that? With paid advertising?
Yeah. If they're looking at dipping their feet in the water a little bit, what's one of the couple of things that they should probably look at first?
So one, I would argue that, we are very holistic. We used to do a lot more of just that kind of stuff. But there's some tools that you can use and some training that you can get that will help you figure out how to set up a paid search campaign for yourself. So Google has training on how to use Google Ads and certifications. And so there's a variety of videos and things like that. And then they have tools, but then there's also third-party tools. So something like SEMrush, some people call it SEMrush.
Been around forever. So that
What's that?
SEM Rush has been around forever. I remember that back in the day
Right.
when I was building websites.
Yeah, and it's gotten so much more robust. Ahrefs is another one. Moz is another one.
Mm-hmm.
SpyFu, SurgeGraph. There's just a variety of different platforms out there
Right.
that that you can use, and to help you make decisions about what keywords to go after, and then also they help you change your content so that it's better accepted by the search engines. Um, and so, to me, if you're trying to DIY it, that's what I would do: is go watch some of the videos on Google about how to do Google Ads. Try and take their certification test to make sure you're getting it right,
Mm-hmm.
and then use some of those third-party tools, which there are free versions, and then there's some that it's $100 a month or something like that to use the tool, and you're going to use it to help manage your campaign, which is money well spent in my mind. But those would be the places that I would start if you're trying to do it yourself.
Nice. Very cool.
You can also watch our webinars, but I would
Yes.
start with those guys first.
Awesome. And definitely we'll put some links to tools and resources and stuff for you as well. Now we got two last questions. Last question is going to be the easy one. How can people get a hold of you? So you'll get that in a second. But before we do that, this is the Meet Cool People show, and I always ask every one of my guests, what do the words "meet cool people" mean to you?
I usually look for people with purple backgrounds. Honestly, that's where I no. What does meet cool people mean to me? I mean, I love people that have a different take on life. People that tend to be a little iconoclastic and tend to be countercultural, I guess. And look through things from a different lens. Just because I find them just much more interesting. So I'm always looking for people that have a different take than most of the rest of the world does. There are a lot of sheep out there, and so I look for people that are willing to challenge convention and do that, which I think you do in terms of how you approach things. And I think you're somebody that's really thought through a process and taken a lot of time to understand it really well. And so that's the other part I think is deep expertise in something is really interesting to me. Like, it takes time, takes investment. You got to be committed to something, which tells you a lot about the person. And then they got to be pretty smart. And, it's fun to talk with people that have that kind of deep expertise about a topic. And so, those are the other kinds of people I really like to meet.
Cool. I love it. Love it. Great answer. All right. So last question. This is the easy one. How do people get a hold of you?
So my email is dan.smink@Refract ROI, all one word, .com. So dan.smink@refractroi.com. That'd be the easiest way to do it.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you, Dan. This has been awesome. And I appreciate you coming and hanging out today.
Yeah, my pleasure, Eli. It's always a joy. So thank you.
Awesome. All right. Everybody else, get out there. Have an amazing day. As always, if there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out. Let me know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. If you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to followuprockstar.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to followuprockstar.com and we'll see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rockstar.